Hi, I'm Claudia Del Hierro.
And I'm Ross Sponholt.
And we're here at Sapphire, where we're talking to customers about SAP automation on Azure. And we're both part of the Azure Customer Advisory team.
Okay, so let's start. First, we created this project because we wanted to make it easier for people with little Azure knowledge to deploy SAP HANA on Azure. And we made this as an open source project so that if you want to take this and make it your own, make your own changes to fit your own requirements, you certainly can do this. So all the code for doing this project is available on GitHub. So some of the things that we were trying to address that customers told us is that they needed time to ramp up on Azure before they could start their SAP on Azure program, and we wanted to just make that go really quickly for them. They also found it time consuming to actually go through the process of installing HANA for their dev and test environments. So this makes it single point and click, and you can be off to the races. There are also many requirements to follow and advised practices for deploying HANA on Azure or even anywhere. And so we made it automatic to follow those practices when you use the template. We also wanted to make it so that the template or that the deployments were consistent. So you can deploy 2 and 5 environments and they're going to be exactly the same. So that's really the value of being able to do that. You can create new environments, delete your environment and create a new one, and you know you'll have exactly what you started with. So just to give you a little bit of an idea, it used to be if you were doing a HANA manual install, you went through the terminal-based experience, and as you can see, it's very text-based, and there are a lot of questions and answers that you have to go through to actually deploy this. And what we've done is made it a simple web-based form inside of the Azure portal to be able to deploy, and Claudia is going to talk about the options that are available there. Now just really quick on what we're actually deploying. So this is the architecture. If you look down here, we've talked about the Azure reference architecture, and we can, we're deploying the database component of the reference architecture, which is here. It's actually 2 instances of HANA with replication between them, and then for high availability, and a availability set to control the whole failover process. Now, it's a deep dive into the architecture that we're actually deploying. We're using accelerated networking for the virtual machines so that we have very fast networking available. We're using the right accelerator for the HANA logs for very low latency writes. We're striping the disk drives properly and creating all of the proper disk configuration for optimal performance, and we're also using the Linux high availability extensions for automatic failover between the nodes if there are any failures. And the deployment actually creates quite a few Azure-based artifacts that Claudia will talk about, but it has a lot of functionality here that it's providing for you without having to do a whole lot of work. So we have some customer use cases that we wanted to talk about here. We have one company that is using this to deploy all of their development and test environments for their SAP on Azure project with virtual machines. Microsoft IT is actually using this for their quite extensive testing environments for SAP on Azure. One partner is leveraging this with Puppet and ServiceNow so that their developers can request an SAP environment. ServiceNow does the execution using the template to automatically provision a new environment. We also have customers incorporating this using Ansible, Chef, Terraform, and some other configuration management tools that is very easy to incorporate into.
So as Ross mentioned earlier, all of this is up on GitHub under our repo. That's Azure cat-gsi, and then it's under SAP HANA ARM. And here we are storing all the different JSON templates and shell scripts that you need to run the whole thing. This will create a cluster deployment of HANA. You have to go to that readme-hsr.md file. And if you click that Deploy to Azure button, it'll actually open up the Azure portal. Here you have to give it some of your subscription information. And as you can see, we have like very few parameters for a full-blown deployment. So let's talk through them a little bit. First, you have your two virtual machine names. In this case, I gave Node 1 and Node 2. We have to set up a HANA jump box with Windows Server installed. There you'll have like HANA Studio, PuTTY, and you'll be able to connect to your whole environment. After that, you can go ahead and choose your virtual machine size. We have M-Series, which are now certified to run SAP on Azure. And in this video, I just chose E16 because it's a lot less cores and I don't have a lot in my subscription. After that, I'm just going to go through all the different networking configurations, so like the VNet name and the custom URI. So what I actually have to do is to download all the SAP bits in advance and then put them in a publicly accessible place, and that's what my custom URI is going to be. So in this case, I'm just going to use Azure Blob Storage. After that, I'm just going to go ahead and set up like the VM username, the password, and this username will be the same for all the virtual machines in my environment. After that, I'll choose the operating system. In this case, I'm using SLES. The HANA system ID, the instance number, whether I want to use an existing network resource group or not. I don't need to do any of the BYOS parameters, so I'll just leave those alone. And after that, I'm just going to agree to terms and conditions, hit purchase, and this will go ahead and start creating the environment in Azure.
How long does it take, Claudia?
Approximately after like 30 or 40 minutes, what we'll get is all these resource groups that we can see here. And it'll have that HANA jump box with Windows Server. It'll have two HANA virtual machines that have SLES, so a Linux operating system. All the different disks, the network interfaces, and I'll also have the HANA load balancer, which will help me create the cluster. If I go into the jump box and log on to HANA Studio, I'll register my system and I'll see all this. So I have my two nodes, primary and secondary. The replication mode is synced and the replication status is active. If I go to the Hawk console, so the actor cluster console, I can see all the different resources that were created. I can go ahead and see my two nodes. And in this particular case, you'll see that I have this IP, which is from the load balancer that I just pointed to earlier in the research group. And then for the Stoned SBD device, we're using iSCSI, also on the Windows Server jump box. So the only thing this is doing is actually leveraging like ARM templates, so like JSON files that are on GitHub, as well as the shell script. What the shell script does, it just like creates some configurations particular to HANA, goes ahead and downloads all the bits from that URI that we placed in the beginning, and then just goes ahead, installs HANA, does the HSR replication, a backup, and configures the entire cluster. So after that's done, you can go back to GitHub, you can take this, modify it to fit your deployment, and you can see like all the files that we're using here. And that's it. That's what we're presenting to customers, and we hope this is useful for you guys as well. Thank you for watching.